I might change the title of this video. I'm not sure. Just because of the thumbnail, it's like, how could I even encapsulate such a cool name, right? For such a cool thumbnail. Well, it's true. A little understanding goes a long way, and it goes for everyone, not just women, not just men. And, the biggest action, everyone thinks that if it's not online, it didn't happen that way, right? Well, the biggest victories are always behind the camera. It's not going to be televised or publicized, right? And a lot of videos that you get and podcasts, a lot of it's heavily edited to skew to one direction or another, right? And it's up to you to go in the course that fits for you and using a little bit of knowledge and understanding. And you don't got to overly understand what everyone's going through, right? And you can have a point of view without it, you know, coming across as you being cold in real life or anything like that, right? Because more people need to be kinder to each other. You're not going to get that much on these spaces, of course, but there's nothing wrong with learning from a woman. It takes a woman to know a woman, right? And although I don't mean to, I do attract a lot of men on my space. And although I tend to come across like I chastise certain people, I'm actually very understanding and I'm very relatable. And a lot of men of all different ages, I mean, I must be some type of magnet because I've never had had any trouble attracting, for the good, the bad, the indifferent, right? And so usually, you know, um, for some odd reason, I do believe that God puts people in our path for a reason. And every day, I continue to get tested. And, also my integrity, also, how far are you willing to go to be a decent person when no one's looking and you're minding your business, right? Because you may have people approach you and stuff like that. And my heart bleeds for people. It doesn't, just because I take a stand on some of my positions doesn't mean that I walk around hating men. Far from it. I do care about men and women. And of course, I care about men. And men also can be hurtful. They're so quick to blame women for everything, but they don't realize how hurtful and short-sighted they can be as well too. And today is another glowing full moon. It's actually pretty yellow today. I've noticed the moon. She is round and she is yellowish. It's almost like a little bit a tint, like she has a tint of the sun, a little bit of that glow. And I'm actually going to pull over just for a few minutes before I park because it seems like every time I try to do this on the road, people just love tailgating people. It's so wild today. People are really definitely tailgating. But when you think about it too, right? A lot of men misunderstand women. And I seen this weird Chinese guy online this morning. I don't know if he's like on the spectrum or what, but he was trying to act like he knew everything about women. He was the vagina whisperer. I'm like, you guys are freaking crazy. If a lot of these guys need a long, complex equation just to understand women. They need like a whole diagram and stuff, and they still miss the mark, right? A lot of them will depersonalize us in a lot of ways. And like I was saying too, on. And like I was saying too in my prior video, there's a lot of people, men who will put women in different boxes and stuff, right? Like, oh, this person's for this. If I'm attracted to her, she's just, she's good for this role. And it's really weird, right? But men don't like it if women were to put them in their respective boxes. And a lot of the times it's the men who forge and groom the women that they complain about, because women just learned from other men trying to play games with them. And then they just switched it up and made it to a point where it was conducive. They turned it around pretty much, right? But I do get a lot of young men, and I'm always willing to be a voice of reason to young men who are having relationship problems with women. Although there's a lot of professed people out there who think they have all the answers, although they have no experience. A lot of them hate their mothers. They have an Oedipus complex with fathers. I've noticed a lot of younger girls too. I don't know what it is, if it's their background or if they were raised away from their dad for a little while and then was reunited, or if their parents were fighting and whatnot, and the parents would complain about each other. They will maybe be estranged from one parent. And some of these young girls, they grow up and they have like I don't know what it's called. I know there's an Oedipus complex for young guys who want to do their mothers or have fantasies, the term mother chucker. But there are girls now, like the ones who seek, large age gaps and stuff like that. A lot of times too, especially a lot of the red pill people have issues with their mom, but they have like this thing where they're always defending their dad no matter what. And it takes two to tango. I'm sure their dads weren't perfect. It's very easy to idealize a parent when you're younger and vilify the other one. Sometimes that can happen with opposite sex or, situations, mother and son, vice versa. But it can also happen with mother and daughter and father and son. I've seen situations where fathers have stolen their sons' girlfriends and impregnated them. And the Bible talks about how that's almost like laying down with your son when you do that, because you're sharing the same, And there's something really sick and sinister about something like that. And I also understand that there's sick girls out there who just look at everything as a competition, other women as a competition, whatever, right? Because they were bred to have to compete at every turn. And in highly competitive families, that could definitely happen. Where people feel like they have to, really, really get down and dirty and stuff, right? But it just takes a level of understanding. I mean, I just walked out of the coffee shop and I was about to record because sometimes I do these audio recordings, but, I wanted to keep it private too, right? Because I didn't know what this guy was going to ask me. So this young guy, really nice guy, I'm not going to put his name out there. It looks like he's going through hard times. And it goes to show everyone wants to be like, oh, this one's a traitor if they talk about family online, as long as you're not mentioning names or scenarios. But it is important to talk about the dynamic of toxic families and whatnot, because a lot of people in distress are in that situation because their families turned their back on them. They could have been, getting away from abusive situations, whatever. Or sometimes families don't really care like they say about each other, because you will see a lot of them doing well. And I don't really trust a family if a bunch of them are doing well and you got one that's, like a lost sheep out there. And, I understand people have to be accountable at some point, but it just kind of hurts me in a way too. And so this guy, he, asked for his name and his age. He's 31, a 31-year-old guy. He approached me in the parking lot when I left and got my coffee. So I bought my coffee. I was leaving the little Portuguese market that I like to frequent. Well, at least the kid has good taste, right? Because he knew which parking lot to solicit, right? So he went there and he was like, "Oh, excuse me, miss," and he was asking if I had any spare change or whatnot. And sometimes I do, but I really didn't this time. He said he needed like a coffee or whatever. I know some people are thinking, oh, he probably wanted to get whatever. I'm not here to judge what someone's going to do with that. God puts people in my position for a reason. So regardless of what people thought, if you're in my vicinity and if I have the power to help you, I'm going to help you. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I have a long day too. I just want to get home, but I can imagine some people's days are even worse. Maybe they don't even have a home to go home to, right? So this kid looked like, he was kind of going through it, so I was asking him a little bit about himself and stuff. And I told him, when he gets himself together, if he needs a job, and he needed something to eat. He said he was hungry and he could have used a coffee or whatever. And I was like, well, we can go back inside and I can buy you a meal and a coffee, whatever you need, And I knew he was real because, he needed it. So I felt really bad. So we went back inside and they had like fresh chicken and french fries and all this stuff in the back. So he made himself a plate, and I didn't want any attention. The girls in there were like, oh, it's so nice of you. I'm like, no, God did this. This has nothing to do with me. He puts people in each other's paths for a reason. And I was trying to be really demure. I'm not trying to make a whole thing out of it. Let him think, hey, that's my friend, whatever. Don't want to embarrass the kid. And, and I told it, like, I walked into the register, make sure his food was paid. And I was like, oh, your coffee is being prepared. It's all set. You can go pick it up. And I told him, no matter what, like he was telling me how he's the black sheep of the family. And I told him, oh, I can definitely relate. And I said, it's sad when he's like, I guess my family, cares, but, if they really cared, they'd reach out or whatever. And I'm like, I understand that, but obviously God cares and, you must have angels over you or whatever. And he's like, oh, you must have them too. Or, it was a touching moment. And I just gave him some words of encouragement and sent him on his way. And that's all we can do, right? Each and every day is try to have a little bit of understanding for each other. And I know men are like, oh, women are so emotional, they're this and that. It's like, women are very complex individuals. We do go through a lot and we don't get the credit that we fully deserve. And we're always getting a bad rap, and even other women hating other women and stuff. And even men now obviously trying to emulate us women and now trying to be the voice and say, oh, I know everything about women, probably hasn't even had one in years, And I'm like, wow. Obviously we are to be learned from, right? And obviously not everyone is created equal, because you do have some that perpetrate. And just because they talk enough crap and they get enough people to agree with them, a lot of people will tend to go with it. And yeah, I will keep throwing stones at the stupid female red pillars, because what are they really doing to help but to enrage men as a whole? Like, why don't you put them together and try to help with like job opportunities if you really cared? Oh, are you helping them in a tough situation? If you had to, what are you doing? And there's nothing to, talk about and then report. But at the same time, just sitting around like, oh, I really care about men and what they're going. It's such crap, because most people just need compassion, understanding, a little bit of education, especially, when it comes to bettering themselves and taking care of themselves and at least being able to feed themselves that day, And networking is so important, and you never know when you're going to see someone again, I remember years ago, I was working at a coffee shop, and I remember working next to a methadone clinic, and there was some girls who used to come through and get their coffees and stuff. And, I build rapport with whoever, high and low, and years later, one of the girls, now that I frequent like this gourmet coffee shop near my job, I see her working there, and she's looking amazing. She's a mom now. She's going to be a grandma soon. It's crazy. She looks super young, and she looks so healthy, and she's amazing. And she's so sweet to me. Sometimes, she'll hook me up when I go there, and I'll be like, you stop it right now, right? But people remember that. Like, they'll remember how you treated them, when you were at, they were at their lowest. That's so important. And that can be for anybody. Okay. And I think more education should be needed to see a woman's point of view. And it's like, yeah, it's not all about reproduction in biology. There's also a heart and soul. Okay. And if they don't want men to be treated as a human dildo or a wallet, then please don't treat women, right? Like, whatever, a pit, whatever you guys think of it. Is there anybody on? Nobody's commenting right now. Yeah, sometimes I do just audio ones, which is fine because I'm on the go sometimes, and sometimes you guys do the replay. But it's so important that people try to have a little bit of understanding. And yeah, if guys don't want to be depersonalized and treated like just reproduction. I know some guys laugh and they're like, oh, the vagina monologues. It's so funny how guys obsess over women so much, but then when women start talking about sex ed or women's health or sex education and really going in the nitty gritty, all of a sudden they're so turned off they run away. Isn't that funny how that works, guys? I think that's hilarious. And I guess that's the secret, right? When you want to, shoo them away. And, they think it's so funny, like breaking this down like that. It's like, yeah, let's not talk about men's health, okay? And how a lot of them could be cleaner and more groomed and stuff. And let's not talk about the ones who are not even circumcised. Don't get me started and want to vomit. Looking like a whole elephant trunk. No one's trying to touch that nastiness, but you can't tell anybody that, right? It's like, yeah, well, I'm not saying I have this huge repertoire, but men shouldn't be so quick to talk about women because women can sit around and say, well, you know what? Out of the two, the ones with the hygiene issues are usually the men, okay? Because women were just taught to be extra clean, maybe because of our time of the month. I don't know. I just have to have my 2 showers a day. I need to bathe. I need to take my long baths. I can't, it's not in and out. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of attention. It's like a part-time job, seriously, to keep it all together. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with women talking about reproductive health or just health in general. Everyone could stand to be a little bit more clean. And especially now, the way people are talking about sex, it doesn't sound like it's made for humans. It sounds like it's for animals because some of the stuff is awful. And I'm like, yeah, well, if that's what you consider it, yeah, not everyone is the same. It's so funny. And it's interesting how also, some women portray themselves like they're so different from the rest, the red pillars, right? But those are the ones who are the women they speak about. Because they're talking all this crazy rhetoric, and it's like, yeah, you're just making this up because you're not actually talking about a real person exactly. But men need to, listen to someone at least with a little bit more sense. And it's okay to listen to other people's point of view because there's a lot of great classes that I've been to, and the best teachers were women. They were really chill. And we do have a lot of patience to be able to break things down, make diagrams if needed. And we have been doing that for some of you guys, like basically, trying to go point by point and making things very, very simple for you all to understand. And yeah, it's all about, keeping an open mind. You can learn from anybody, and you never know who that person is that's going to give you a hand up and help you in your time of need. And in during those times, there's nobody else, just you and that other person. And let me tell you, whoever needs the help, that, you know what I mean, they're going to feel it. And I know I shared a story like last week how a guy came to the store all with this bad attitude, expecting to jump for his car and didn't say thank you. And I was like, I wouldn't help a person like that. Yeah, because
You know what I mean? Obviously, there's not, it's free to be humble, especially when that's going to help you get what you need. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of being pompous, right? If you're in a situation where you're going through a hard time, you know? And everyone goes through a hard time. You know, I shared with him how when I was younger, you know, I understand, you know, I raised two kids. It was like super hard. And that's how you know who your friends are and who really cares about you. You know, everyone acts like they're all good until, you know, and, you know, I was dealing with a lot, and I was like, you know, high honor student. You know, and that's how the devil moves too. When you're on your trajectory to do amazing, and I continue to survive all that, and I know it's by the grace of God that helps me to survive all that too. And obviously, it's because obviously He's seen my value, and that, you know, I have a lot of value still to give to this world. And even if I'm having a hard day, which anybody goes through it, you know, you can still be in a position a little bit better than someone else where you can make their day that much better. I mean, he could have went to bed like super hungry. Like my soul was aching for that guy. And it was so crazy because if I would have fired up the live like 10 minutes sooner, you guys would have heard the whole thing. But I'm like, even so, I don't think that would have been needed because I didn't want him to put himself out there. Plus, you know, I asked for his name and stuff like that. So, you know, to keep his information private, it's better that I didn't do that. And you just never know. Sometimes just being out in the world, that's why I do like having my audio. It's like you never know like what's gonna happen. And literally, like, I pulled in, I'm like, oh, maybe I should fire it up now. I'm like, oh, I'll do it after I come out, you know? Like, you guys don't need to hear me every time I get a damn coffee, right? And so as soon as I walked out, there's this guy who was like, hey, miss, you know, do you have any loose change? And I feel so bad when they say that because, you know, what's loose change going to do? You know, if you have a few dollars, you know, you give them like some dollars. But I literally didn't have like any cash with me. And I'm like, listen, you know, this is all I have, but let's go in and get you something to eat, get you right, you know? And he looked like really skinny, and maybe he did have like a habit and he needs to get over, you know what I mean? And you can see, you know, and you can just pray that God, like, you know, releases them from that. I wouldn't know because I wasn't in that situation, but like I can understand what it is to struggle. And I think that if people would just like stop judging each other on superficial bullshit and just learn to be kinder each and every day, like at least be receptive to doing like a kind gesture when you can. I mean, that to me speaks volumes in the grand scheme of things, and like that could really help people out because a lot of people, they will be so moved by that, and it'll just take an act of kindness for them to like, you know, really dig deep, you know, because they've seen that somebody believed in them and cared about them enough and stuff. And I told them, you know, when your family, when you feel like your family don't care, you got to care. You got to care for yourself because your life has value and God has you here for a reason. So you got to fight for yourself, you know, kind of thing. And he was like, yeah, you're right, you know, and it's true because, you know, you can't just wait for, you know, motivation all the time or someone else to look out, you know. Although, yeah, you know, if you need help at the moment, but hopefully that will inspire him to like continue to go on and do good for the next person. Or, you know, not look at all women the same, hopefully, but it's not like he was even like that. Definitely wasn't worried about all that. And, you know, my heart definitely felt for him, but it's okay to learn from women, boys and girls, right? In my class, you don't have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. You can just excuse yourself and go. Just raise your hand to ask questions if you do. If you have any questions, right? But this is going to be a short live, guys. I'll probably upload some time in the next few days. I got a couple of days off coming up. It's been a really interesting day. Gonna go relax. Talk to a lot of people today. And yeah, you can, you know, you can do righteous things in different ways every day. And you just got to put yourself out there and be open, you know, and No, women are not all just emotional and this and that. It's so stupid. They think like, oh, what, if they drew a freaking vagina, they'd probably make it crying. Like, what the hell is your problem? Like, do we need to start making, peen, poetry? Is that it next, right? The peen monologues and stuff, and all the issues that it faces, because it is interesting how you're seeing now men all of a sudden thinking that they can speak for women. It's like, what are you even doing? Pretty soon they're gonna be like prancing around in a dress. I told a lot of you guys that that's what's happening. We're being watched very heavily because they're like, a lot of people, instead of giving us props, instead of coming to our class and appreciating our point of view, no, they want to take notes and then try to use it and make it their curriculum. Like, yeah, I see you, stupid Mr. Chung or whatever the hell your name is. This freaking Asian guy, he was so queer. He was literally like talking crazy this morning, and I was like, oh, another troll channel. Now you got the Chinese ones doing it. He looked very, very like asexual. I don't know. Some of these guys, they act so damn crazy. But yeah, apparently. So I guess, yeah, that's supposed to be cool now, just to make fun of women and stuff. Yeah, well, if I ever see any of these people out in the world and they're hurting, they better keep walking. Don't ask a woman for any type of favors then. That's how you think. And any woman who's friends with some of these pig-headed, freaking Raggedy Ann podcasters, female podcasters, I wouldn't trust a chick like that with a 10-foot pole. It's the kind of chick that would make lies about you and then go try to sue your boyfriend or something. And yeah, she could be ugly as a dog, but it don't matter. She'll act so damn thirsty. And women like that, they love talking shit about all women, especially women that are out of their league, right? They love doing that because that's the only way they think that they can get leverage, because they can't do it anywhere else. Isn't that so funny? They literally cannot do it on their own merit, because if they could, they would have had something to talk about, and they would have been talking about that in their discussions, where they do not. So you guys need to really see the light if you can. There's a full moon, it's glowing. Go outside, look up, and see it as the portal that it is. It's a spotlight. Maybe that will help you guys remind yourself that you need to put the spotlight on all the crazy issues in your life and look at it clearly for what it is. Thanks, guys. Hope you guys have a good night. Until next time, stay well.